Hello, my name is Havva and I chose to study the effects of media violence on the likelihood of developing violent and aggressive behaviour. The particular article I found interesting is a longitudinal study on the development of aggressive behaviour from childhood into adulthood. The research article is called Longitudinal Relations Between Children's Exposure to TV Violence and Their Aggressive and Violent Behaviour in Young Adulthood. It was published in the Developmental Psychology 2003 volume number 39 by L. Rowell, Huseman and Jessica Moyes-Titus, Cheryl Lynn Podolsky and Leonard D. Eron. The study deviates from traditional methods of research as it occurred over a period of 15 years using the same participants in both trials, as previous studies have only found a significant correlation between media violence and aggression in males. However, such traditional generic studies provided a basis of growth for this particular area of research and alluded to questions that this particular article aims to answer. Albert Bandura studied behaviour in children between 1961 and 1963 and was well known for his famous Bobo doll experiment. His experiment was an empirical demonstration of the social learning theory and illustrated how children replicate the behaviour they observe. Within this experiment, Bandura observed the behaviour of children after they had witnessed an adult display aggressive behaviour towards a blow-up clown doll, and concluded that children who observe aggressive behaviour are likely to replicate it. Bandura's experiment constitutes the fundamental basis of this research article. However, Raoul Huseman and his colleagues aim to demonstrate a correlation between viewing violent media during childhood and the impact this has on the behaviour of adults. This experiment hypothesized that children who often observe violent media in their childhood were more likely to display aggressive behaviours or acts during adulthood. Huseman and co. particularly honed in on this area of study to further extend and test hypotheses constructed by social researchers such as Bandura, and potentially discover the intermediate effects of media violence on impressionable children. The first trial of this study was undertaken in 1977, and first and third graders from public schools in Oak Park, Illinois were selected to take part. The second trial consisted of the same first and third graders and was taken 15 years later in 1992. However, only 329 of the original sample were able to be contacted. This new sample consisted of 153 males and 176 females. In 1977, the selected participants were interviewed in their classrooms in regards to the amount of time they spent observing violent forms of media, ranging from video games to movies. The intellectual capabilities of these students was also recorded. Refinding these participants following the 15-year period proved more difficult as several were uncontactable. In 1992, researchers conducted 20 to 30-minute interviews. However, if unable to attend, a significant other, such as a spouse, was selected to do the interview on behalf of the participant. Phone interviews and interviews by mail were also undertaken. The interviews occurred over a 3-year period to maximise the amount of original participants that could provide results in the study. Despite the reduction in participants, the re-interview process did not reduce the range of aggressive behaviour, which feared to have occurred, as a p-value of 0.1 was obtained, making the results statistically significant. The main results taken from the experiment show a correlation between violent media viewing and aggressive behaviour, as 17 to 19% of participants showed physical aggression and 5 to 23% showed indirect aggression in their adult years. However, due to the nature of the study, researchers explored a scope of avenues such as the degree of realism of the media observed and the same-sex influence on child behaviour. This particular table shows adult aggression versus childhood perception of realism of TV violence, which basically means the degree to which the media observed by the child seemed real. Now, this graph clearly shows that there is a high correlation between realistic TV violence and aggressive behaviour displayed in adulthood. Females showed approximately 18 to 20% of aggressive behaviour following the viewing of realistic TV violence, and males showed a whopping 60%. This graph shows adult aggression versus childhood identification with same-sex aggressive TV characters, which basically means that girls who viewed other girls being violent would be more likely to replicate aggressive behaviour than girls who viewed boys being violent, and vice versa. Now, this graph shows that females are pretty similar to the previous graph. However, males in their adulthood are likely, 80% of males in their adulthood that were interviewed showed aggressive behaviour based on this particular characteristic. The study went as far as observing the type of violence exhibited by the participant as illustrated by this table. Results also stipulated that indirect aggression is more predominant in females, whereas males exhibited more physical aggression. This particular table illustrates the different types of abuse displayed or aggressive behaviour displayed by the participants. It ranges from spouse abuse to driving behaviour and basically shows the significance of such information in relation to the study. It's quite good that this particular study has branched out and not only had a single narrow focus on one type of aggressive behaviour, such as Bandura's experiment, which was just the children hitting the Bobo doll violently. This shows the different ranges of aggressive behaviour and different ways we can measure it and the different ways in which it can be interpreted. That's why this study is so unique and so significant, because it doesn't just stop at childhood behaviour, it ranges into, or it develops and follows the child and illustrates all types of behaviours they undertake after having viewed such violent and aggressive media during their childhood. The research article concluded that there was in fact a high correlation between media violence and aggression. Huseman and co. also concluded, however, that children between the ages of 6 and 9 who witnessed aggressive same-sex TV characters and realistic violence have a higher risk of exhibiting aggressive behaviours in their adult years. Although this study uses the same participants over an extended period of time, the nature of the study carries with it several flaws that seek to undermine the reliability of the results. For example, the participants were not contacted for 15 years following their first interview. Therefore, researchers were unaware of their habits, their upbringing, and what they were exposed to during their childhood and adolescence. Such factors have a significant impact on the development of children, and consequently reduce or increase the likelihood of them engaging in aggressive behaviour. Although a significant statistical value was obtained, I strongly believe that the researchers did not have sufficient premise to conclude, based on their studies, that there is a strong correlation between media violence observed in children and the aggressive behaviour displayed in adulthood. Furthermore, self-report methods were used throughout both trials of this study. The children were interviewed, as were their teachers. This leaves room for teacher bias towards favoured children, and certain information may or may not have been omitted by the child to sway the favourability of the results. During the second trial that began in 1992, participants that were contacted via the phone and mail may have also provided different responses due to their partial anonymity when compared with those interviewed face-to-face. Therefore, the researchers cannot conclusively state the factuality of the results obtained in adult years. Although it is flawed, the study is interesting, as it sways from traditional methods of studying and research, and aims to extensively explain the deeper resonating influence that media violence has on individual behaviours. It would be interesting to see it replicated now, however, with sufficient measures taken to ensure that participants remained active in the study and were monitored more vigilantly by the researchers. A question that remains unanswered is the true extent to which violent media influences individuals in later years. Although we can safely conclude that we understand that media violence does in some way influence aggressive behaviour in individuals, supported by Bandura's Bobo doll experiment, and to some extent this one. Thank you.